do, I'm recording so that you can watch this back in the future. I'm going to show you how you've all taken pictures of rooms. We're going to create signage to go in those rooms, and we have to be aware of the space we're creating signage for, okay? You have to be aware of the color palette, space, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to show you a really neat online tool that you can use to help you when you're developing a color palette for a room that has a bold color in it, okay? This is especially important when we're creating in spaces that have bold colors that stand out. Like the auditorium that we're in right now, which has garnet or maroon, or I think it's garnet. I'm not really sure, but it's a reddish sort of color. And if we're designing signage for this room, would have to design around it. I have a program here called Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, if you have a school laptop rather, you'll have Photoshop on it as well. Hopefully there's one person in each group who has Photoshop. Just like before there was one person in each group had an iPad. I went on the internet and I grabbed this picture of a very purple room, okay? That's an example of where if we were going to create signage for this room, we need to take the wall colors into account. Whether or not you think it looks great or not great doesn't matter. If we were hired by a client to create a sign, maybe we're going to, so this girl's name is Corrine, I think. So maybe we were going to create a Corrine sign for her wall. Corinne? Corinne? No? We would need to take into account the color of her room, regardless of whether or not we like it. That's not what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to work for this person. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how we might use some online tools to get some starting points for potential colors. I'm going to take this and I'm going to open it in Photoshop. So I just dragged it onto the Photoshop icon on my dock. And I actually already had it open. So here it is. Woohoo! We're very zoomed in. I'm going to put it at 50% for now. Oh, no, it's too small. Let's go 100%. So to change the zoom, you just change that number in the bottom. You guys may or may not know that. Can you see what I'm doing down there? No. Bottom left? Bottom right there. You just click in there and right. Or you can, I think you can go to view and zoom in or zoom out. I could do this, view fit to screen. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to use, this is the, what is this tool called? The rectangular marquee tool. Okay, it lets me select a section of the photograph. I'm going to select a section of the photograph that's part of the purple wall, but nothing else. I'm going to try and select something that's lit evenly, okay? So something that is not deeply in shadow and not blown out by too much light. So I'm going to start over here, and oh, I can't go over there because now I have part of the ceiling. I can't do that. That's important. So I'm just going to kind of do this, okay? So I've created a rectangle. Within the little lines, it might be a little hard to see. I have none of the ceiling, none of the bed. It's not too shadowed, and it's not blown out too much by the light. The lamp is close to here, but it's not blown out too much. And I'm going to do this. Image, crop. So now all I have is that. And I'm going to, again, I'll just say view and fit to screen. Okay, so we've got a big old purple area. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shrink this down to 1 pixel. Do you guys know what a pixel is?
Yes. But I can see pixels and not pixels.
Yeah, you can see pixels here. So I heard some people sort of describing it within their groups, but it's this, every picture, a photograph that you take is made up of tiny, tiny dots, and those dots are called pixels, okay? So if I say something is 800 by 600 pixels, it's 800 along the top and 600 down the side. This one is 249 pixels along the top by 121 down the side. And if I multiply those two numbers together, I can tell you how many megapixels it is. Have you heard? Your camera is 12 megapixels. You've heard that before? So you take the area, you multiply those two numbers. Look at that math in the real world, huh? And now you can figure out how many megapixels your picture is. Make sense? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this down to a single pixel. And what Photoshop will do is it'll average the color. So 200 by 100, it's going to take all of them, and it's going to find what is the average color of all that selected area, and it's going to give it to me as a single pixel. Okay? Photoshop is very clever. So I'm going to do this. Image size. And right now it's 249. I'm going to change that to, I'm going to put this back on for a second. So by default, if I go here and say, okay, I'm going to scale the height down to 1 pixel, the average is that then the width would need to be 2 pixels. I can force that to be 1 by 1 by unchecking this box. This box says Constraint Proportions. If I uncheck that, it lets me squish it. You know how you've sometimes maybe seen a picture online of a person and you can tell it's squished this way or that way. Maybe it makes them look short and fat or tall and skinny. Okay? That's just because someone hasn't kept the proportions correct when they shrink it. So now it'll let me do 1 by 1. And I'm going to say, okay. We can barely see it. But don't worry. We can zoom in. Let's see if we can zoom into a 1200%. It's still pretty small. Let's see if I can go any closer. I'll just grab this magnifying glass so that I can zoom in 3,200 times. Okay, so can you guys see that tiny pixel up there? Yeah. So that's the average purple for the area that I selected in that original box. This right here, I'm going to double click on that. And when I do that, it brings up this paint dropper tool. Or actually, I could click here and choose the paint dropper tool too. And if I click that, it selects it. Notice how when I drag this around, at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of numbers that are changing there. Everything but the hue. But down here, this is the hex code, the hexadecimal code for that color. Hexadecimal is a really interesting numbering system. It's base 16. Do you guys know about different numbering systems? We use a base 10 numbering system for everyday counting because we have 10 fingers on our hands, right? Computers use a base 2 system, which is called binary. Have you heard of that? It has only 0 and 1. Hexadecimal is another numbering system also used by computer programmers. It's base 16. You don't really need to know that. I'm just telling you because it's an interesting fact. So I go ahead and I use my paint dropper and I choose here on that purple and it gives me the hexadecimal number for that. I'm going to double click it and copy it because I'm going to use it in a second. All right. There's an amazing website which is right here called Paletton. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a cool website for helping you to choose color palettes whenever you're designing something. Some of you might have a great sense of colors and which colors go together, which are complementary. But this helps me. I don't necessarily have a great sense of that. Sometimes I can tell you if something looks not good, but I might not be able to just come up in my mind with a color palette that looks amazing off the top of my head. This tool lets you do that. So there are different ways that we can do it. We can create, see up here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different wheels. I'm going to click this one. This one gives me adjacent colors. So as I drag this around, it shows me colors that are adjacent to those that might look good together. You don't have to agree. Of course, colors are subjective, but you can see if I choose my main color to be here in red, it chooses something in the purples and something in the oranges, colors that are adjacent to it that have similar values. Okay? If I drag it over here to green, I might get a yellow and a darker green. If I go to this shade of green, I get a bluish and a lightish green. Okay? But there's also this. This is a triad of colors. And you can see the pattern that it creates on that wheel there. It's kind of like a triangle. See that? So those dots move as I drag them around. This is a tetrad, I think it's called, which is 4 colors. You can see there's some... You can drag these around like this and then turn those. So you can decide the distance between the colors on the color wheel there. It's pretty neat. But the other thing I can do, I'm going to go back to my triad for a second. So I can go down here and it's asking me for the base color. Can you see it from where you are? But there's a hexadecimal number down here. So what I can do is I can go down here where it says base RGB. That's a hex number. I can click that. And I can click on this box and I can erase the hexadecimal numbers that's there. And then I copied my hexadecimal code for that purple before. I'm going to paste it in the box and I'm going to say OK. And what it's doing is it's suggesting some colors that would look good. Okay? Does that make sense? And I can figure out what the hexadecimal codes are for these by hovering over them. So if I think, oh, that green, or maybe one of these other greens might look great. I can write down those hexadecimal codes. You see them hovering there? So this green is 6FB477. If I take that number to any painting program or any internet website where I want to set the color and type that in, the color will look exactly the same. Okay? That number means that specific color. It means a certain amount of red, green, and blue light mixed together to create the color. Okay? The first two digits, I know there are letters in there too, but we'll call them digits because they're hexadecimal. So the 6 and the F of the green, that's how much red is mixed together. B and 4 is green, and 7 is blue. Make sense? Okay. We're going to pause it there for today, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this information that I've just shared with you next class. But I've made a video of this so that we can reference it in the future. Okay? I have a couple of questions. I'm going to stop the video so it doesn't go too long. It's already